Hello, and welcome to another Woodland Alliance puzzle video. Today, as you can see, we are departing from our standard format and moving on to some bigger and broader horizons. For those of you who have kept up to date with the channel, all past puzzles have taken place on the Autumn map, using the 4 base factions as well as the base deck. Well, today we're going to shake all of that up. Today we're going to present a puzzle on the Winter map, which was the second map released by Leader Games when they published Root originally. We are going to be including a faction from the first expansion, the Lizard Cult, namely. And we're also going to be featuring the Exiles and Partisans deck. If you play Root mainly on the Steam Direwolf app, then all of this is wild and unfamiliar. And hang in there. We'll make sure that you're not too confused at any point. And if you play Root mainly on Tabletop Simulator or in real life, then you'll be happy to stretch your brain looking at some more variety. So let's start by taking a look around the Winter map. As you can see, the Winter map is symmetrical in 2 ways. Firstly, we have this big river running through the center. And secondly, you'll notice that the clearing structure is arranged kind of like a mirror of left and right. If you were to fold this map in half along this line here, it would match up. Now, all this is to say, it does create some sort of interesting structures when you're talking about the Woodland Alliance. Again, the Woodland Alliance scores points by spreading sympathy. And to spread sympathy, you need to spread to adjacent clearings. Now, that means that anytime there's only one access point to an area, it's going to be difficult for sympathy to access that spot without some effort. What am I talking about? Let's look along this top edge here, as well as this bottom edge. You'll notice that going from left to right, from east to west, is a bit tough. And that creates choke points. I'll go ahead and circle the kind of clearings to keep in mind here. These 4 clearings are the choke points on the Winter map. As you can see, this Woodland Alliance player has done a good job of kind of taking over the left side of the board, but has not been able to access the right side just yet. Luckily for the Woodland Alliance, though, they've got this steadfast warrior up in the top left, kind of preserving access to the top side. All right, that's just a little bit about the Winter map. There's obviously a lot of ins and outs to keep in mind here, but some more landmarks that we should be aware of. So there's not like a Texas substitute on this map per se. Texas on the Autumn map is the sort of mega 5 pathway clearing. Here there's not a Texas. There's actually 2 clearings that are mirror images that I would consider to be highly important. They influence all of the choke points. Also, they've got, multiple clearings that they connect to. It's all good. But together, these 2 form what I would say are the most ideal base locations for Woodland Alliance on the Winter map. And for all of you Game of Thrones fans out there, I call these the twins. These 2 clearings, if you were somehow able to get both of them as Woodland Alliance, it'd be pretty tough to stand in opposition. So, okay, that's enough about this map. It's time to take a look around, get the lay of the land, see what's up with these factions. We'll start with the cats. The cats and their keep are in the lower right-hand corner. Cats are obviously in the lead, as you can see by my handy-dandy score tracker in the top right. Sitting at 25, really hoping to be able to build here and then find some more points somewhere. There is a large cat concentration in the top right, which is because the faction we'll talk about in a second here, the Eyrie, in their most recent turn, had come in here and disrupted a sawmill. So the cats, by way of response, had sent their force back up to contest. So there's sort of this tension point going on up here. Cat's fighting for some space. The Eyrie trying to shut the door on the Cat's ability to score. Speaking of the Eyrie, let's take a look around at the Eyrie situation. Their leader is the commander. And this top left corner, you'll notice where the starting roost was at the beginning of this game is no longer a roost. At some point in this game, this actually became Woodland Alliance base, and then it was sanctified by the lizard cult. So this has changed hands all over the place. But the Eyrie has some troops back in there ready to contest this as well if the need arises. And let's take a look at the lizards. So the lizards are doing pretty well for themselves. They've got 3 rabbit gardens built. They are sort of dealing with some threats here from the Woodland Alliance kind of threatening to revolt. However, they did take care of that by removing the base from the top left. Evidence of the removal of this base can be seen by looking at the Woodland Alliance's starting supporters. The starting supporters are 3 fox and 3 mouse. And you'll notice there's no rabbit or bird cards in the supporters. That's because they were thrown away when this base was destroyed. Also thrown away was the officer count, which had stood at a pretty towering 5, but is now down to 2. So the Woodland Alliance has been beat back quite a bit, and they're sitting at 13 points, so all hope is lost, right? This is a puzzle video, so of course not. We're going to play to win as the Woodland Alliance from way in the back. But the only way to know how to play for the win is to properly observe. And what does that entail? Looking at our starting hand. All right, it is late in the game. We do have a full hand of 5 cards. Taking a look around, we have a gently used knapsack. We have a Foxfolk Steel, a Boat Builders, an Ambush, and a False Orders. You'll notice that 2 of those are new additions. If you are mainly a Steam Direwolf app root player, then these will be extremely unfamiliar. This is from the Exiles and Partisans deck. These are 2 crafted improvements. False Orders is a one-time use, and Boat Builders is a persistent effect. But let's start with the crafted cards. Gently used Knapsack and Foxfolk Steel, a bag and a sword, are both available to be crafted. Boat Builders from the E&P deck says, you treat rivers as paths. False Orders says, in Birdsong, may discard this card to move half of an enemy's warriors rounded up from any clearing as if you were that player, ignoring rule. Basically, it's a nice way to push enemy warriors out of a heavily defended clearing. If you're the Woodland Alliance, it's a really nice way to remove martial law somewhere. Important to note, though, that False Orders does trigger during Birdsong, and the Woodland Alliance crafts during daylight, so there won't be a chance to use it if this is indeed our last turn, which it is because we're going to win. All right, let's minimize that hand here, but we'll keep it where we can see it. It's the Woodland Alliance's turn. We're starting at Birdsong, and without giving any further contextual clues, if you are an advanced Woodland Alliance player, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to pause the video right now at the top of Birdsong and solve this puzzle. How do you win as the Woodland Alliance? I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. If you're not an advanced Woodland Alliance player and you're looking at this and going, what? Don't worry. Stay with me. We'll have our moment to pause later on in the video. So, top of Birdsong, very simple question is asked. Do you want to revolt? The Woodland Alliance does have one candidate clearing for a revolt, and it's this mouse clearing off to the left. You can see we do have the supporters to do it. But is it a good idea? In general, revolts tend to be good towards the start of the game because they open up your ability to take evening actions, to draw more cards. Revolting and getting bases on the map is a good thing earlier on. Usually in a Woodland Alliance kind of endgame state, revolting is not always the most efficient way to get points. How do you get points as the Woodland Alliance? You get points by spreading sympathy. And if you're spending 2 supporters to revolt for, in this case, 1 point from this roost, then you're actually missing out on opportunities to score from spreading sympathy. For now, let's just say that we're not going to revolt. Instead, we're going to reach the spread sympathy step. And here's where I'll say, if you're a beginning or intermediate player, go ahead and pause the video and tell me where you would spread sympathy and in what order. All right. For those of you who took a second to pause the video, congratulations. For everybody else, let's check it out. Important to note, there's martial law in this fox clearing. That means there are 3 or more warriors versus this mouse clearing where there are only 2 cat warriors. Why is this important? Well, you'll see over here on our sympathy tracker, this is a big dividing line between things costing 2 supporters versus things costing 3 supporters. So, in the right order, we have first our fox and second our mouse. Each of these will cost 3 supporters. That would be the most efficient way to spread sympathy, and in fact, the best way to score a bunch of points. Just in those 2 clearings, it'll score us an impressive 5 points, reflected up here in our handy dandy score tracker. So okay, we've spread sympathy. Very nice. Now it's our daylight, and we've got this whole hand to work with. If you're an intermediate player, now is the time for you to pause the video and find the solution that wins this game for the Woodland Alliance. And if you're a beginner player, go ahead and stick with me here while we talk through a couple of different approaches to scoring points and winning this game. Looking down at our hand of cards, you'll see we can kind of divide them up into kind of 2 categories. One is cards you can craft, and other is cards that you spend to train officers. Right? We've got 2 craftable items here. We've got a persistent effect, and then we've got 2 cards that are definitely candidates for becoming officers. Let's see if we can craft these items and how far that'll get us. So we're currently at 2 officers. We can craft these 2 items for 3 victory points. That would get us to 21. That's a bag and a sword. Okay, from there we're working with 3 cards. We could train with all 3 of those, get 3 officers, but I'm not really sure how to use those evening actions to get us more points. More points would be from organizing, ostensibly. And there's not really any good places to move. And you're probably starting to come around to kind of the crux of this puzzle, which is 1 card in our hand that's been lurking very surreptitiously, and that's Boat Builders. It turns out that Boat Builders is probably going to be the key to winning this game as the Woodland Alliance. And in fact, based on our comments earlier about the choke points that we mentioned, with Boat Builders, you don't even need to worry about any of that. You can go from left to right, just across the river. All right, so let's say that we craft Boat Builders and both items. So again, 3 points. We're sitting at 21. And we'll train these 2 up as officers. So I'll notate that over here in the officers box. We've got 4 total. And that means that we can move, organize, and organize for another 8 points. That's 8 points from spreading sympathy. All right, we are at 18 plus 11. That only gets us to 29. 29. It's really close. It's really close, but it's not quite enough. Taking the treasure route and crafting both of these items is not going to get you across the finish line. It only gets you to 29 points. So if you're a beginner Root player, beginner Woodland Alliance player, I'm going to ask you to pause the video now and tell me, during your daylight, what's the best way to spend this hand to get across the finish line and get to 30 victory points. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds now. All right, for those of you who paused the video, congratulations. And for everybody else, let's go ahead and just walk through the solution right now. So it's daylight. You are the Woodland Alliance. It turns out the best approach here is not to craft any of these items for points, but instead to train using all 4 of those cards. And that leaves you with, yes, a total of 6 officers. That's a mega amount of officers right there. Oh, important to note, too, that the 6 officers is actually the max currently that you can train up, because 4 of your warriors are already on the board. But that just leaves us with 1 card left in our hands. That's Boat Builders. let's go ahead and craft it. And with that in mind, we enter our evening phase with a whole bunch of actions on our hands. And I bet you can guess how this is going to play out. We'll start by moving all 3 warriors across the divide to the other twin. We'll move 2 warriors even further down the river to this undefended workshop. And from there, we'll move the last warrior up into this mouse clearing in the corner. Let's go ahead and see all that movement on the board. There we go. And from here, we're just going to organize all 3 of these for another 12 points. And that's going to do it. Just clearing out the end of this sympathy track is enough to get us all the way across the finish line. And now we're sitting on 30 points. Feels good, right? Started at 13, got all the way to 30, from dead last to undisputed first. And this just goes to show you that some crafted effects like boat builders, when they can make your movement easier as the Woodland Alliance, it really makes a big difference. Now, for those of you wondering whether there's a path forward with the kind of blood and treasure route, as I like to call it, that starts with a revolt in this mouse clearing, I've crunched the numbers, and it actually doesn't pan out. Those of you who are advanced players and pause the video right away have surely run through this possibility and calculated it out to the end, and will tell me that it's just not worth it. It often isn't. But just for fun, let's kind of chart our course through it anyway. So let's say revolt in this clearing. All right, we get a toast warrior. We destroy that roost. We get 1 point. Go to 14. We get an officer. All right, good. Means we're at 3 officers. Spending 2 mouse supporters to do so. And then we'll spread sympathy. All right, and that's going to get us 3 more points. Get to 17. During daylight, we'll then craft these 3 cards for 3 more points, plus the boat builder's persistent effect. Gets us to 20. We'll use the last 2 cards to train. And why, you ask? Well, it's because we've noticed that this workshop is undefended. And so if all goes well, we can actually end up attacking that. So we're sitting at 20 points. We've got 5 officers. It's now evening. And what do you do during the evening phase? We're going to move 3 over here. We're going to move 2 down here. Battle this workshop. And then organize twice. And that's going to get us another 7 points. So we end this adventure at 27. Not quite the turn you would have hoped for as the Woodland Alliance, and it would have been very sad to end the game at 27 and watch the cats walk away with a victory. So we move back to the end and take a look at this beautiful board state where we are victorious as the Woodland Alliance. It feels good. Thanks again, everybody, for joining me for the puzzle video. I'm hoping to continue to feature new maps and new factions here on this channel as we explore the endless depths of Woodland Alliance craftiness. If you don't already, go ahead and hop over to Twitch and follow me at Waterman121. Going to be doing some more Root streams, mostly on Root Digital, but maybe splashing some Tabletop Simulator in there as well. And I'll see you all around the woodland.